these guys are voluntary. In fact, they are not medical staff or sub-staff. Just they, by themselves, come here to help us. So this is a good idea about Iraqi people. Not all, most of them are thieves.
I hope my family breathing and life, safety life.
I hope that Iraqi people live in free, live in democratic life.
Just the odor or smell of freedom that America make us to smell it is enough, and we'll be very grateful for them for our life.
Ask the churches there in America to pray for peace here in Iraq. And God, I'm sure that He will hear our prayers and He will give His peace here in Iraq. Thank you very much.
When the bombing stopped in Iraq, a cry went out for help, and an American living in Japan answered that call. Leading a team of young Japanese students, Ken Joseph Jr. of AssyrianChristians.com found there were two basic needs. The families had no way of communicating to one another, not knowing whether one was alive or one was dead. That was a fearful thing for many of the folks in Iraq. And the other, which seemed even greater, was simply that there was no drinkable water in Iraq. It was virtually unavailable. But where do you go? What are the first steps to getting drinkable water into Iraq?
The local newspaper here, they wrote a story saying that a group had come from Japan. They were trying to bring supplies into Iraq, and Mr. Hijazi happened to see the newspaper article, right?
Yes, that's true. And we offered to assist them in providing the truck to carry whatever they want to take with them to Iraq. And finally they have decided, because the war has ended, almost ended there in Iraq, they have decided that they are going only to take water, nothing else, because this is the most important thing that the Iraqi people need now.
And a big deal it was. 20 tons of truck necessary, 11,000 bottles of water. The president of the Nestle Water Company here in Amman, Jordan, gave the water at his cost, and the deal was made. One minor hitch. With 11,000 bottles of water being sold at cost, it's still thousands of dollars. How could he pay for such a thing? Well, when the first Gulf War, Desert Storm, happened, Ken had established a relationship with the Near East Foundation and Mr. Hajim Halasef. With that relationship, they were able to minister and help in relief for the Iraqi people after the first Gulf War, and once again, that relationship was reestablished, and Mr. Hajim helped in covering the cost of this water. Recently, the Near East Foundation covered the cost for the delivery of 21 tons of water, over nearly 11,000 bottles of water for relief into Baghdad. Tell me about that.
HCI, they called us here in Jordan, and they want to help the Iraqi people, and they offered to send some money and medicine for relief to Iraq. As we heard in the news, a lot of children, they have diarrhea and disease because bad water. I thought to send this shipment, the funds, it's from HCI. Near East Foundation, we did the paperwork, and still we have money to send more shipments of water, medicine, the needs, what they need in Iraq, we will try to send them.
This is what 11,000 bottles of water looks like. Then we were off, truck loaded, and down the road. As we drew nearer to Baghdad, the need was evident. People would greet the truck and ask for some of that precious water. When we arrived in Baghdad at the Assyrian church, everyone came out. It was like a celebration to help offload this precious blessing. But what of the communication need? Along with his ad asking for help to help the Iraqi church, Ken also advertised that mail and email would be given to the hotel in Amman, Jordan called the Toledo. There, the mail and the emails would be picked up and taken and delivered to the Assyrian church, who would then deliver them to the households throughout Baghdad so that hundreds would hear of their families and have that precious communication that they'd been missing for so long. Ken was also able to acquire some satellite phones and some free satellite time from the Thuraya company. These proved to be a precious lifeline. Hundreds waited in line for a 1-minute call to allow family to know that they were alive and to get precious news from family around the world. There's just something to be said about the security that can come to a family from just simply 1 minute of communication. In just a few days' time, cool, refreshing water was brought to a thirsty people. A lifeline of communication brought peace to hundreds, and if not thousands, here in Baghdad. Tim Bergen reporting in the Mideast. As the sun rose over the border to Iraq, we wonder what lied ahead. Stories of Abraham's journey, of Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came to mind. Stories are still being told about Iraq. Not the encouraging kind, but the kind that pull down and build up walls, the kind that bring deception. As we were driving into Iraq, we noticed that our Mideastern companions began to get nervous. They had heard stories of how many Arabs had been beaten just for entering the city.
What's the matter?
Near to Fallujah, in the way the highway to Baghdad, they were shooted, but nobody was hurt.
As you've heard, there was some truth to that story, but this is more of what we found.
Thank you for Mr. President Bush.
Okay.
Thank you.
Like George Bush.
We were also told by the media here in Jordan and by the U.S. that due to looting, medicines and medical supplies were virtually non-existent. Well, we visited the Central Baghdad Pediatric Hospital, talked to one of the doctors, and here's what we found.
In fact, they are not medical staff or sub-staff. Just by themselves come here to help us. So this is a good idea about Iraqi people. Not most of them are thieves. And if you come to the hospital, you see many drugs we have, and we distribute it to another hospital that needs a drug. We give them to another hospital and to some mosque that is treated some wounded patient, and we give it. So we don't have deficiency in medicine at least at now. But some drugs are not available, just little of them. Anti-epileptic, anticonvulsant, that mean, and also the cytotoxic drug. We don't have it. But we have deficiency in the medical staff, in fact, because some doctors are far away from Baghdad, and till now we don't know about them, if they come or not, if they are alive or not. Also, we don't know about them.
Was Saddam Hussein here?
كم يوم قاعد صدام حسين؟
والله احنا ما ندري لك حسب يقول العالم يقول صار له يومين او 3 ايام كان هنا.
3 or 4 days still in here.
Well, there's no way of telling whether this story is true or not, but this gentleman told us that 3 days of the bombing, this Central Baghdad Pediatric Hospital was home to Saddam Hussein. Now, the staff was not very happy about him being here, nor about him leaving. They tried to stop him in whatever way they could, but being that his cars were all armor-plated, the only thing that they could do was shoot out the tires. Being that there was no electricity, obviously traffic signals would not work. We were in town, but when we came back to Jordan, we read this article in the Jordan Times. Now, the article told us that there were traffic jams all over Iraq, but what we found was more like this. Probably the strangest of all the tales was the desperate need for food in Baghdad. We ran into 52 triaxle trailers carrying 20 tons of food per triaxle trailer into Baghdad for relief. Now, this was the UN's big presentation of bringing aid into Iraq. The question is, was this really needed?
Hello.
Some deceptions are based on truth. Others are just out and out lies. The problem is, how do you tell the difference? Well, one way to tell is to come to Iraq, come to Baghdad, visit some of the cities and see what's going on. But I know that many of you can't do that. So another way is to pray. Pray that the people of Iraq will come to a place of love and understanding. Pray that the people of Iraq will know the freedoms that we enjoy. Pray that the people of Iraq will come to know the love and the truth that they need to hear. See, all these stories, all these deceptions we've talked about are small deceptions. The large deception is that they don't know the truth. And apart from knowing the truth, how can they be set free? This is Tim Bergen reporting from the Mideast.
Dear Doug, this is a message from me for you, and I wish it reached through you to the whole American people, or some of them, or at least to your friends. At first, I would like to thank the American people, all of them as a general, and especially to the President of United States, to what great change they do in Iraq for progress and development. Iraq was the worst terrorist country and dictatorial regime. I'm talking to you, and my job is a doctor, as you know. We was work as a slave for Saddam and his follower. We see from killing terrorists, torture and fear to the degree that we adopt ourselves on it. And everything was unallowed. The satellite, mobile, and even the internet until the beginning of 2000 year, where he allowed the internet without allowing the chatting, to keep the people on their blindness and not to see the West civilization or not to expose his evil. And he obliged to pay $50 just to open a free email. To be acknowledged, my salary as a doctor was not more than $3 per month. Could you believe that, my brother? And also I worked sometime in the hospital of the prison of Abu Ghraib for a while, and I see what Saddam followers do with Iraqi people. And what hidden is greater. Anyhow, I don't like to bother you with our miserable history, but I envy you because you have a president like George W. Bush, which give millions of people the taste of freedom and human rights. And we should confess that all what we saw and what we will see first is with the care and keeping of God and care of American nation and American president, which give people far away from him thousands of miles the freedom, progress, and if he do that for us, so what he will do for his people. However, for what now happen in some area of Iraq about violence, these terrorists want Iraq return to the middle century, and I'm sure that only the right and correct will be real and true. So these terrorists will go and crushed by the development, and only with evil remember in the history. As to the United States of America, it will stay in the heart of every Iraqi child born and see the light and freedom on the United States hand. I'm not American citizen, but as appreciative and grateful to American people, so my obligation and duty is to produce the advice. So I say to the whole American people that George W. Bush is a national treasure. Is a national treasure for you, and you should keep him. And if you wish to stay as a leader of a free world, you should have a president like George W. Bush. And it's honor for you to have a president like him. And in fact, one of my dreams is to meet president like him. Great thanks to the whole American people, and a special thanks to the President George W. Bush, which I consider him my president also. Also special thanks to my brother and friend Douglas and all his colleagues. Also special thanks to U.S. Army, and especially to the sniper, my friend Donnie in the army. Your friends from Iraq, Dr. Waad Aidan Lewis, Baghdad.